Hey everyone, this is Josh from before, and I'm here with the Last Night on Earth Wonder Woman from the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse line, and I'll give you an unpopular opinion right out the gate. When this wave was announced, this was the one that I was looking forward to the most, which might seem crazy, but part of what I love about this Multiverse line is they give us like some weird, unexpected designs from some of these characters. And would I like to see the classic versions of all these characters? Absolutely. And I have quite a few back there, and I'm looking forward to many more of them. But part of the fun for me of being on the ride of collecting this line is they come out with this stuff that is kind of unexpected and maybe, definitely like not something I would think that I would ever want. And then, the execution turns out so cool. And so it's a like just the experience of getting something that maybe you didn't know you wanted, and it turns out to be as cool, in some ways even more cool than just a classic take on the character that we've seen a bunch of times, and that's part of the fun for me. So when I saw this mohawk sort of barbarian looking Wonder Woman, I was really stoked about it, even though not a huge fan of the Last Night on Earth comic. It's just kind of whatever. It's all right. It's kind of an interesting concept, but doesn't quite stick the landing. And that said, about my excitement for this design, I can already see a couple things in here that kind of bother me about the execution. And so I'm sure the naysayers out there and the critics out there are going to have a field day complaining about that stuff. Will it ruin my my enjoyment? We'll find out. But let's take a look at the box, what we've come to expect. I like when they put the logos up here. Nice little differentiation there. On the back, here's the Capullo artwork of the Mohawk Wonder Woman. It tells you which part of the Build-A-Fig Bane that you got. It shows Bane down there. And if you'll look here, you can see actually they've made some departures, because this, in the comic, she's got some like heavy scarring on her face, which they did not include on this. And there's some other departures that I'm gonna get into as well. Another thing about the artwork, you notice she's holding Dr. Fate's helmet, and she wears it. And there is a rumored variant of this figure coming out, or allegedly coming out, I should say, that will include the Dr. Fate helmet. I think Todd's shown some videos even with the helmet in there. So if you don't want the Build-A-Fig, but this design appeals to you, especially with the addition of that helmet, and then maybe you hold out for that one. But for now, this is what we get: the sword, the arms from Bane. And as I open this up, I'll tell you, I'm gonna do a separate video on Bane, so I'm not getting those arms out in this video. The Build-A-Fig episode will be out after I get through the standard wave. So here we go. She got the card and the hockey puck stand. She's not quite as, they've taken to giving these characters kind of a more dynamic pose in the box. This one, she doesn't quite have much as one. Maybe, 1 foot up, a little higher than the other, but it's a more neutral sort of in the box pose. Smells great. Gotta love the smell. So my first gripe right out of the gate is that, and as you can see, in the artwork, in the comic, she's got the mohawk and she's got a smooth bald head. For some reason here, they've chosen to give her this sort of stubbly look, which is that it's a light wash, and the actual, like, they've textured her scalp to look like it's kind of got stubble there, and I don't think it was necessary. I think it would have been more striking looking to just have that clean bald on the side. And I think I'm gonna try to use, some people use like Tide to go sticks to kind of rub off that light paint. I'm gonna give that a shot because I would prefer this to be clean bald on the side. And you can even see kind of a little bit of like sloppiness on the edges there. Just not ideal for me. I like the mohawk look. I just don't like this. I just don't think it quite matches with the paint on the rest of it. But I do like that they've got the silver, the gold, the red on the breastplate here is shiny. I like, I like having a variety of paint types, matte next to shiny. It always gives it a cool variation and makes it look a little more interesting. I really love this cloak that she's wearing, where she's got the hood pulled back, and you can see it's fabric textured, and it's very thin, and it even folds up. The way it looks like it's sort of folded back over her shoulders, and then you get down here and it's folded and hangs in kind of a naturalistic way. Although it's a little, some of the edges are a little like they didn't quite get cut out just right. Little hangy doodles there on the edges, on the seams. Not ideal. But I've talked about this before with the capes. I'm a real big fan. For one, I tend to not go for fabric capes or just fabric clothing on toys anyway. I just don't think it ever looks right unless you're talking about like Hot Toys. So I've really loved to see how they've evolved with their approaches to the capes since like wave 1, which is the smoother, and now they've gotten so far is that they're putting fabric texture into this soft rubbery material, and it's really cool. I feel like every new wave that comes out from this line, they're pushing at least one facet of the way they execute these. And so the evolution of where these started and where they're going with it now, which I was complaining about the edges being cut out, but then when you see it like that and it looks like a real fabric tear, that looks so cool. Really exciting. But for everything that's great like this, then they come with these sheaths, and just like the Deathstroke one, it's not a full sheath, which if somebody can explain to me why they're doing this, I mean, I'm pretty forgiving when it comes to this kind of stuff. I'm willing to let it slide if I can understand the logic behind not fully wrapping all the way around. It just seems bonkers to me. And when everything else like looks so good, why are they all right with that looking like that? I don't know. I wish I did. You can see some nice details and nice textures put into the stuff here. But overall, it's kind of a more smooth and what I would say is less detailed sculpt, which is fine. Some of the characters that aren't crammed full of detail like that original Superman they did, it looks great. But just in terms of their approach to here, and the sheath is very heavily textured and looks awesome on this side, but that. Some other things, and I haven't even started moving this around yet, so I don't know what the articulation is like. They've done this where they've tucked her, they've made the waist cut right here above this, even though this is obviously part of her skin and her stomach, but which is interesting in theory, but in execution, this has no definition where her, like when you go up here, she's got what looks like ab muscles and definition in her stomach, and this is just flat, like plain, like no, there's nothing to it. It doesn't quite match up. It's a little bit of a gripe, and maybe when I start articulating it, explain itself a little bit better, but it bothers me. And then the way the hinges always seem to be not an afterthought. They have to commit to one color, and then that color goes all the way through, and it looks a little bothersome. And then pin choices, the color for the pin is weird. Same on this, like this Batman from the same wave, like the way his hinges go like that, and I talked about that in his video. It just seems a little sloppy. Not a terrible thing, but in comparison to the rest of the execution, it just feels a little odd that they let it be like that. It's really like just a cool looking figure. She's very tall too. This is a tall character, and I mean she's got these huge heels, and she's Wonder Woman, so it makes sense, but just something to be aware of. Yeah, the head is great, and her little mohawk ponytail hangs down like that, but it's got plenty of room to move in there. You see how deep that goes? It works really nice. She can look up pretty well. She can look down really well, and get side to side. Great face sculpt. I like it. I think maybe I like that they didn't put the scarring on her face. I think it might have seemed a little weird. Might seemed a little too much like The Drowned. So I like it. I like that. Very, they don't do a lot of female characters, so she's got much thinner arms than the just standard characters. But this shoulder works really well under here. Bicep cut they've put on the edge of her. What do you call those? What do you call those? Are they decorative or are they functional? There's those gold bands on her arm. Is there a name for those? Double elbow works really well. Sometimes when they've got big gauntlets or sculpted details on the arms, the double elbows don't get as much clearance maybe as you would like, but this works great. She can answer the phone. Hello. Looks good. The wrists are tucked underneath her gauntlets, but still have plenty of range, which is always satisfying to me when they can hide joints as much as possible. I'm pretty forgiving of obvious ball joints or hinges. It is what they're toys. It is what it is. But when they go a little bit the extra mile and can manage to make some satisfying choices like that, I appreciate it. The ab works pretty well, and actually you can see the chest sits pretty high up off of the ab piece, and has tons of clearance. That looks so good. That works great. Grateful for that. And oh, this popped right off. I'll put that back on in a minute. So there's a little bit of movement down in the quote unquote waist. There's right here. Like you can, if you watch her belly button kind of move a little bit, but it seems pretty tight. I think it'll loosen up, but it seems awfully tight. I don't know, this knife popped out. Easy to pop it back on. Yeah, this really bothers me. The way this is just flat and smooth, despite the fact that like on this piece I can see your belly button, and this is just smooth. It's just a little weird. But the texture of these straps looks really nice. It actually is nice that this knife's a separate piece, so you could, depending on how you got her posed, you could clear the way a little bit. Like certain characters, like the White Knight Batman, he's got a big knife on his belt, and it just gets in the way of his ab crunch. see. Side splits, the articulation is there, but, you know, when they have the details like this on their waist piece that hang down, it can get in the way. But pretty fluid leg movement. And this is my favorite thing, when this rotation actually works, because everybody's like, why don't they put a thigh cut on it? Why don't they put a thigh cut on it? Well, when this works, they don't even need one. So I'm happy, very happy when that works. Get pretty good. Really good leg movement. That's always nice. I feel like that's improving. Another thing that's improving every wave. You know, there have been some in recent ones, like the Flashpoint Batman. The leg articulation up here was really not very good. So it feels like they're putting effort into that. I got some sloppy details on the paint here. You know, that edge right there. Double knee works, although she can't quite kick her own butt. But it's a pretty deep bend. I do like when they can strategically put some sort of detail on the knee pads. You know, that's partly Capullo's design, but also when they lean into it and can execute it like that. And I like just, you know, asymmetrical details, you know, the different scratches. I like things throw off the just symmetrical plainness of it. These, and I know I talk about these ball joints and the ankles a lot, because it's always just the one thing that just seems, you know, like they struggled with and maybe couldn't quite come up with a solution. This one is really well tucked up under there and really well hidden, although it looks a little odd just because there's a very light texture on these straps, on these shin guard things, but then a very heavy texture on the shoe. Seems a little like abrupt, but it's nice. The details on the shoes are really cool. They look a lot better than the Drown's feet. Although they do the same thing as the Drown's feet, which is when you're putting a toe hinge on there, the idea is that you want it to be able to maybe balance on that flat surface when you bend it, but the way this this comes down, the way it's tooled, there's just a sharp edge right there. So if I wanted that to be on the flat on the whatever surface I'm putting it on, well, I can't do it now. So what's the point of the toe articulation? And another thing is when they do these, some of the characters, when they have big boots, big Doc Marten boots or big high heels, the swivel doesn't work as well, but this does. This is nice. I don't think I bent that arm. Not tons of clearance there to get that out, which is nice, and still swivels. It does have a butterfly, so you can get that just subtle shift in body language that I really appreciate when I'm posing these figures. So I'll put her up here, and I'm going to get her sword out, and we will see how the sheath works. This is feeling like it might be one where you actually do need the hockey puck stand. So I'm sure I can, if I put some time in, I can get her to balance. But one thing about this way this is packaged, this sword barely fits in this bubble. Like you can see, it's kind of pushed out, a little wonky, and just like even snug up in there. Like it just seems like it doesn't, the way that's shaped doesn't really help too much. Really cool sword sculpt. Looks very Amazonian, you know, very ancient sort of details in there. The wrapped handle and the little, can't tell on the little medallion here on the bottom, but just nice. And I can't tell, like, if the sword's just kind of warped, or if it actually does look like pounded steel, like hammered. It's hard to tell. It doesn't have any like nicks or scratches on it that some of the other swords do have. So she's got a fist, one hand, this hand for the sword. It actually fits in there really great. This is maybe the easiest time I've ever had putting an accessory in the hands of a character from this line. You know, the accessory hands, I really make fun of them when they just look like this. This, you know, it's got some separation and a little more casualness, a little more just sort of humanness to it. Wow, that sword is bent. That's wobbly. I've never done it, but people say if you heat them up that you can get these warped pieces to go back to the way they're supposed to be, flat. They also say that you might heat it up and it'll go flat, but then it'll return to its warped state, so it might take a few tries. So if that interests you, that approach might work. I don't know if I mentioned I was moving it, but I don't know if I mentioned that this sheath moves like that, which is very nice. I mean, the sword goes in there great. There's actually plenty of room. It's actually much less snug than the Deathstroke sheath. But I mean, there it is. I don't know. I just wish somebody would tell me why. Like, I will forgive you if you give me a good reason why this is the case. So far, this is the third one from this line that I've opened, and like I said, this is the one I was looking forward to the most. The Batman was an unexpected favorite. Like, I was looking forward to that figure, but the execution is unbelievably good. So I think this might be come in at number 2 right now for me from this line. Just because that Batman was surprisingly good. But I am happy with it. I just don't know if it quite meets my meets the level of excitement I had when I first saw the picture of it. Let's come in a little closer here just so you can see how it stacks up. See, she is pretty tall compared to that bat. And here's a 6-inch figure as well. You can just see just how tall she is next to a full head taller than the 6-inch, and then still taller even than this bat. But she's an Amazonian in high heels. I don't know how to get around that. So there it is, Mohawk Wonder Woman from Last Night on Earth. If you like this design, it's a pretty successful figure. Although I might, you know, if you're on the fence, you might be compelled to wait until that Death Metal Wonder Woman comes out, because I think that looks even more rad than this. If you need to build a fig, you're gonna have to get her anyway. You know, if you're somebody that just wants to complain about weird design choices that you wouldn't make, then you're gonna love to complain about this one. But I'm looking forward to posing her and put her on the shelf along next to the other characters, because there are not nearly enough female characters, and this, you know, unique take on Wonder Woman is gonna look really cool. I think that's all I got, guys. Thank you to everyone who's watching, who's subscribing, commenting. I hope you're having as much fun as we are, and can't wait to see you next time. Bye.